The first time Captain Vorthal of the Andromeda Merchant Fleet requested a human crew member, the Galactic Employment Agency thought it was a mistake. Humans were still the new kids on the interstellar block, barely 2 centuries into space travel, physically weaker than most species, with no natural armor, unremarkable senses, and absolutely zero telepathic abilities. But Vorthal insisted, and 3 cycles later, when his vessel survived an ion storm that claimed 2 other ships, the captain's unusual request suddenly made perfect sense. That was 15 years ago. Now, humans command premium salaries throughout the Galactic Alliance, with waiting lists stretching years for prestigious postings. I should know. I'm one of them. My name's Rowan. Just Rowan. Most alien species can't handle human surnames anyway. I signed up with the Interstellar Crew Exchange program straight out of college, expecting to spend a few years seeing the cosmos before settling into a normal Earth job. That was 7 years ago, and I haven't looked back. Problem solvers, they call us. Chaos adapters. Pattern recognizers. Fancy terms for what basically amounts to being too stubborn to accept no-win scenarios, where most species evolved to fill specific ecological niches. Humans developed as generalists, adaptable to almost any environment, capable of learning almost any skill, and possessing an uncanny ability to improvise when things go sideways. Take last month's situation on the mining vessel Kralvox. Their quantum extraction drill had malfunctioned below the surface of an unstable moon. The Drologian engineer, brilliant with 6-dimensional mathematics, but utterly rigid in his thinking, declared the equipment unsalvageable. The Vesperan navigator, capable of processing 12 different spatial planes simultaneously, couldn't find a safe extraction route. It was the human mechanic who suggested repurposing the shuttle's gravity dampeners to stabilize the collapsing tunnel long enough to retrieve both crew and equipment. It wasn't genius. It wasn't even particularly innovative. It was just the human tendency to see objects not for what they are, but for what they could be. Some species find us unsettling. The Mersey ambassador once described humans as evolutionary wildcards, unpredictable, inconsistent, and dangerously creative. Maybe he's right, but out here, between the stars, those are exactly the qualities that keep ships flying and crews alive. The irony isn't lost on me. For centuries, we imagined aliens would visit Earth for our resources or territories. Never once did we consider they might just want our perspective. I was scheduled for shore leave next week, my first visit home in 3 years. Then the emergency transmission came through from the edge of the sickness void. A research vessel, the Stellar Horizon, had gone silent after reporting an unusual anomaly. As the only human within 2 parsecs, I was immediately reassigned. The captain met me at the airlock, mandibles clicking anxiously. The Horizon found something, he whispered, his translator barely catching the words. Something that shouldn't exist, and now they're gone. I felt my stomach tighten as the airlock sealed behind me. Whatever waited in the void, I had a feeling this wouldn't be a standard rescue mission. The ship that would take us to the Cygnus Void was called the Nebula Seeker, a mid-size research vessel retrofitted for rescue operations. Captain Zrithval belonged to the Thessalian species, tall, insectoid beings known for their methodical approach to, well, everything. The 6 other crew members represented a typical galactic mix. A Vordani navigator with compound eyes that could perceive radiation spectrums, twin Melosian engineers whose 4 arms each could operate independently, a Drelixan science officer whose silicon-based biology allowed her to process data directly through touch, and a particularly grumpy Olgorian security chief whose ancestors evolved on a heavy gravity world, giving him strength that made even the ship's bulkheads seem flimsy. And then there was me, the human specialist. "We've received the Stellar Horizon's last transmissions," Zrithval explained as we gathered in the command center. His mandibles clicked softly between words, a sign of tension among Thessalians. They were investigating unusual energy readings near the outer boundary of the void when communication ceased. The science officer, Kurla projected a holographic display showing a swirling mass of interstellar gas and dark matter. The void isn't just empty space, she explained. It's a region where normal physics bends. We've mapped only 12% of its volume over 3 centuries of exploration. And the horizon went beyond the mapped sections, I guessed. Kurla's crystalline skin flickered with blue light, their equivalent of nodding. Their final transmission contained fragments of data, readings that make no mathematical sense. The security chief, Drax, rumbled from the corner. The void destroys ships. 38 vessels lost in my lifetime alone. We should request additional combat support. I understood his caution. The Ulgorians had lost an entire battle fleet in the void a century ago. A cultural wound still fresh in their collective memory. The Alliance Council denied our request, the captain replied. They classified this as a scientific anomaly, not a military situation. Which is why you needed a human, I said, the pieces clicking into place. You think whatever's out there requires improvisation. The captain's compound eyes fixed on me. The Horizon had no human crew members. I requested you specifically, Rowan, because of your record on the Helios mining expedition, when their life support failed. I jury-rigged the water recyclers to function as atmospheric processors, I finished. Not exactly the same as investigating a mysterious disappearance. Perhaps not, Drithful conceded. But understand this, we're not simply looking for a missing ship. The Horizon's final partial transmission included 3 words. They were right. A heavy silence fell over the command center. Right about what? I asked. The navigator, Vel, spoke up. 5 years ago, the Horizon's lead researcher published a controversial theory. He claimed the void wasn't natural, that it was engineered by an ancient civilization as a doorway between galaxies, or dimensions, Kurla added quietly. I felt a chill work its way down my spine. One thing every spacefaring species had learned. The universe held more mysteries than certainties, and some mysteries were best left unexplored. The Nebula Seeker shuddered as we jumped to FTL speed. On the main view screen, stars stretched into streaming lines of light. We were committed now. We'll reach the Horizon's last known coordinates in 26 hours, the captain announced. I suggest everyone prepare accordingly. As the others filed out, Drax lingered, his massive form blocking the exit. Human, he growled softly. There is something they're not telling you. His 4 eyes narrowed. The Horizon's captain sent one final personal message before disappearing. It was addressed to your Earth government, and it contained just 5 words. The humans were right first. Drax's words followed me like a shadow as I made my way to my quarters. The humans were right first. What could that possibly mean? Humanity was the galactic newcomer, our theories and technologies considered primitive by most standards. We hadn't even developed proper gravity manipulation without alien assistance. Yet somehow we were connected to whatever the Horizon had discovered. Sleep proved impossible. I spent hours reviewing the Horizon's mission logs instead, at least the parts that weren't classified. Their lead researcher, Dr. Nevam, was a Solari physicist with an unusual fascination with Earth history. He'd spent 3 Earth years studying ancient human civilizations before proposing his void theory. The connection seemed important, but I couldn't see how prehistoric humans could have known anything about interstellar phenomena. A soft chime interrupted my thoughts. Enter, I called. The door slid open to reveal Kurla, the Drellixin science officer. Her crystalline form shimmered under the cabin lights. You should be resting, she said, her voice melodic but concerned. Humans require sleep cycles to maintain cognitive function. I smiled despite myself. And Drellixin require crystallization periods, yet here you are. Fair point. She glided into the room. I thought you should see this. Captain restricted access to the full Horizon briefing, but as science officer, I have certain privileges. She extended a silicon appendage, offering a data crystal. Won't you get in trouble? I asked, taking it carefully. Probably. Her surface rippled with amber light, their version of a shrug. But something feels wrong about this mission. The captain is holding back information, and my species values truth above protocol. The data crystal contained personnel files on the Horizon's crew. I scrolled through them quickly until a name caught my eye. Dr. Isabella Kothari, human anthropologist. I looked up at Kurila. There was a human aboard the Horizon. The only one, she confirmed. And there's something else you should know. Dr. Kothari specialized in ancient Earth mythology, specifically stories about doorways to other realms. A chill ran down my spine. That can't be coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, Kurila said, especially not when crossing the void. Morning cycle brought more revelations. The Melosian engineers, Traz and Praz, cornered me in the mess hall, their 4 arms each gesturing excitedly as they spoke over one another. The Horizon's engine configuration, completely non-standard, modifications to the quantum field generators, designed to create some kind of resonance. Slow down, I interrupted. What are you saying? The twins exchanged looks. The Horizon wasn't just a research vessel, Traz explained. Based on the schematics we accessed, they modified their drive systems to generate a specific energy signature. Like a key, Praz added. A key to open something. The implications were staggering. The Horizon hadn't just been observing the void. They'd been trying to activate something within it. Later that day, as we approached the edge of the void, the navigator Vel approached me on the observation deck. Unlike the others, Vel seemed hostile, keeping all 4 of his compound eyes fixed on me. Your kind doesn't belong out here, he said without preamble. Humans push boundaries that should remain fixed. You ask questions better left unanswered. That's a bit harsh, I replied. We're just curious by nature. Curiosity, Vel hissed, is what got the Horizon's crew killed. And now you're dragging us into the same trap. You don't know they're dead, I countered. Vel's mandibles clicked rapidly. My ancestors served on the first expedition to the void, 300 years before your species reached your own moon. The things they saw there, entities that exist between dimensions, spaces where reality folds into itself. He leaned closer. The void isn't empty, human. It watches. It waits. And now, thanks to your Dr. Kothari and her ancient myths, we've gotten its attention. Before I could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Captain Shrithval's voice echoed through the corridors. All crew to stations. We've detected the Horizon. The main view screen showed it, the sleek research vessel drifting against the swirling backdrop of the void. No visible damage. No signs of distress. Just floating. Life signs, the captain demanded. None detected, Kurila replied, her crystalline form pulsing with concern. But there's significant interference. Prepare boarding protocols, Shrithval ordered. Drax, assemble a security team. Rowan, you're with them. As we suited up, Drax pulled me aside. I don't trust this, the massive Ulgorian rumbled. In my culture, we have stories about ghost ships that lure rescuers to their doom. Every spacefaring species has those stories, I said, checking my oxygen levels. Yes, Drax agreed, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, but not every species has proven them true. He handed me an additional weapon, a small pulse disruptor not on the standard equipment list. Whatever happens over there, stay close to me. The journey across to the Horizon was tense but uneventful. As our shuttle docked with the silent vessel, I couldn't shake the feeling we were being watched from every shadow. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing darkened corridors beyond. Power's out, Drax noted, activating his helmet lights. Emergency systems should have kicked in. We moved through the ship carefully, sweeping each section. The Horizon was immaculate. No signs of struggle, no evidence of catastrophic failure. Just empty. As if the entire crew had simply vanished. Then we reached the research lab. Unlike the rest of the ship, This room hummed with power. In the center stood a device I'd never seen before, a ring of shifting metal that seemed to bend the light around it. "It's active," Kurla whispered, scanning it with her instruments, generating a field identical to the natural patterns within the void. On a nearby console, a single message flashed: "Duor stable. First tion take t stabilize HED." Drax growled low. We should destroy it and leave. But I was drawn to a notebook beside the console. Actual paper, handwritten. Dr. Kothari's journal. I flipped to the last entry. They were right. Our ancestors weren't creating myths. They were recording history. The beings from the other side have been watching humanity since before we had language to name them. They've been waiting for us to find our way back. Tomorrow we make history. We step through. As I read those words aloud, the ring in the center of the room pulsed. The metal twisted impossibly, opening like an iris. Beyond it, I glimpsed something that shouldn't exist. A landscape of crystalline structures under an alien sky, with slender figures moving in the distance. One turned toward us. Even across dimensional boundaries, I felt its attention fix on me like a physical weight. "Human," it seemed to say, though I heard nothing with my ears. "You finally returned to us." The ring contracted suddenly, the portal closing, but not before something small shot through. A metallic sphere that clattered to the floor at my feet. It split open, revealing a holographic message. Dr. Kothari's face formed in the light, her expression urgent. "If you're seeing this, you've found the gateway," she said. "Don't trust what they tell you. Humanity didn't just encounter these beings in our past. We fled from them. They're not our friends. They're not our gods. They're—" The message cut off as the sphere imploded, leaving nothing but dust. The lights throughout the horizon suddenly surged to full brightness. Around us, systems began powering up automatically. The ring in the center of the room started to spin. "We need to leave," Drax shouted. "Now." As we turned to run, every screen on the ship lit up with the same message. "The Dior way REOPNs. The Covian anti-will be fulfilled." The horizon's corridors flashed with warning lights as we ran. Behind us, the hum of the mysterious ring grew louder, a deep vibration that seemed to resonate in my bones. Drax led our desperate retreat, his massive frame barreling through a malfunctioning door that tried to seal itself shut. "The shuttle," he bellowed. "Move." But as we reached the airlock, Kurla suddenly stopped, her crystalline form pulsing with rapid flashes of light, the Drelixin equivalent of a racing heart. "Wait," she said. "We can't leave yet." "Are you insane?" Drax growled. "That thing is activating." "Exactly," she replied, her voice steady despite her obvious fear. "And if we leave now, whatever's coming through will have free access to this ship. A ship with fully functioning drive systems that could take them anywhere in the galaxy." She was right. I thought of Dr. Kothari's final warning. If these beings weren't the benevolent entities they claimed to be, we couldn't risk giving them a vessel. "We need to disable the horizon," I said. Drax's 4 eyes blinked in disbelief. "You've both lost your minds." "The engines," Kurla insisted. "If we overload the quantum field generators, it would create a localized implosion. The horizon would collapse into itself without endangering the nebula seeker." Precious seconds ticked by as Drax considered this. Finally, he activated his comm. "Captain, we need to destroy the horizon. Request permission to overload her core." There was a pause before Zrithval's voice crackled through. "Negative. Return immediately." "That's an order." The three of us exchanged glances. Something in the captain's tone felt wrong. He knew, I whispered, realization dawning. He knew what happened to the horizon. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a retrieval. All the more reason to destroy it, Drax said grimly. He turned to Kurla. "Engine room. Now." We fought against the ship's increasingly erratic systems. Doors slammed shut randomly. Gravity fluctuated wildly. The air itself seemed charged with static electricity that made my hair stand on end. All the while, that humming grew louder, like the heartbeat of some vast, awakening creature. When we finally reached engineering, we found the Malosian twins already there. Traz and Praz worked furiously at the controls, all 8 of their arms moving in perfect coordination. "What are you doing here?" I asked, shocked. "Saving everyone," Traz answered without looking up. "The captain is compromised," Praz added. "He ordered us to prepare the horizon for towing," Traz continued. "But we detected unusual brainwave patterns in his last transmission," Praz finished. "He's been influenced," Kurila said, moving to assist them. "Just like the Horizon's crew." As they worked to overload the engines, Drax stood guard at the door. I searched through the engine room databases, looking for anything else Dr. Kothori might have left behind. What I found chilled me to the core. Hidden files, encrypted with a simple Earth cipher, one that only a human would recognize. Hastily recorded logs that painted a terrifying picture. The entities had been communicating with the Horizon's crew for weeks before they activated the portal. Subtle influence at first, then direct control. Only Kothori had seemed resistant. "Humans have something they want," she'd recorded. "Something in our minds that their kind lacks. They call it adaptive imagination. Our ability to conceive of things that don't exist and then make them real. They'd been harvesting it from us for millennia, but now they want more. They want to cross over entirely." A massive shudder ran through the ship. On the monitors, I could see the ring in the research lab spinning faster, the portal widening. "Hurry," Drax urged from the doorway. "We're out of time." "Almost there," Kurila replied, her crystalline fingers manipulating the engine controls. "Just need to bypass the final safety protocols." Suddenly, Drax was thrown backward as the door exploded inward. Captain Zrithful stood in the smoking entrance, but something was terribly wrong. His movements were jerky, unnatural. Behind him stood Vel, the navigator, similarly changed. "Step away from the controls," the captain said, his voice overlaid with a harmonic resonance that hadn't been there before. "The covenant must be fulfilled." "Captain, you're being controlled," I said, stepping forward cautiously. "Whatever these beings have promised you." "They've promised nothing," he interrupted. "They've shown truth. For eons, we believed humans were valuable for their adaptability, their problem-solving. We never understood why." His mandibles clicked in an unsettling rhythm. "But now we see. You were engineered, created by them, long ago, to be perfect vessels." "That's not true," I insisted, though doubt crept in. "It would explain so much. Humanity's unusually rapid evolution, our odd mix of traits. The beings need physical forms to fully enter our dimension," Zrithful continued, advancing slowly. "Most species are incompatible. Minds too rigid, bodies too specialized. But humans," his compound eyes fixed on me, "humans were made for this purpose." Drax had recovered and now stood protectively in front of us. "Whatever you are, you're not my captain anymore. We are more than we were," Vel said, his voice carrying the same strange resonance. "Soon, you will understand too." The confrontation was interrupted by Traz's shout of triumph. "Overload sequence initiated. 3 minutes to implosion." Zrithful screeched, an inhuman sound no Thessalian throat should produce. He lunged forward with impossible speed, but Drax intercepted him, the two crashing into a tangle of limbs. "Go," the security chief roared as he grappled with his former captain. "Get to the shuttle." We ran, the ship's alarms blaring countdown warnings. Behind us, we heard Drax's weapon discharge repeatedly. Then silence. The corridors warped around us, reality itself seeming to bend. Twice we had to change route, as passageways twisted into impossible geometries. The entities were fighting back, reshaping the ship to trap us. We were nearly at the airlock when Kurila suddenly stopped, her form pulsing with deep red light. "The portal," she said. "It's fully open." Through the ship's internal sensors, we could see it, a massive tear in reality, expanding beyond the confines of the research lab. Slender, luminous figures were stepping through, dozens of them. And behind them, something larger, something ancient. 1 minute to implosion, the ship's computer announced calmly. "We need to go," Praz urged, tugging at my arm. But I hesitated. Dr. Kothuri's final warning burned in my mind. These beings wanted humans specifically. If we simply destroyed the horizon, they'd find another way. Another ship. Another human. "You go," I said, making a decision that felt both terrifying and inevitable. "I need to understand what they want from us." "That's suicide," Traz protested. "Maybe," I acknowledge. "Or maybe this is why humans are in such high demand among galactic captains. We don't just solve problems, we face them." Kirla studied me, her crystalline surface reflecting my determined face. "You're going to the portal." "I am." "Then I'm coming with you," she decided. "My species records information through our very structure. If we survive, the galaxy needs to know the truth." The Malosian twins exchanged looks of dismay. 40 seconds to implosion. The computer reminded us. "Get to the shuttle," I told them. "Tell the Nebula Seeker what happened. Make sure they keep their distance." As they reluctantly departed, Kirla and I moved in the opposite direction, toward the heart of the ship where reality was unraveling. The air grew thick, difficult to breathe. Surfaces rippled like water when we touched them. We reached the edge of what had been the research lab. It was gone now, replaced by a vast, impossible space that couldn't fit within the horizon's hull, a gateway to somewhere else. The luminous figures had spread throughout the ship. Through walls and floors we glimpsed them, moving with fluid grace. At the center of the portal stood the largest of them, a towering presence that radiated ancient intelligence. It turned toward us, somehow sensing our arrival. I felt its attention like a searchlight. "The vessel returns," it said, the words forming directly in my mind. After so many cycles. "I'm not your vessel," I replied aloud, standing my ground despite every instinct screaming to run. "Humanity isn't yours to use." 20 seconds to implosion, the computer announced. The entity seemed to expand, filling my vision. "You do not remember, but you will. The covenant cannot be broken. What was made must serve its purpose." It reached for me with limbs of light. Behind it, through the portal, I glimpsed a dying world, crystalline spires crumbling, an atmosphere turning toxic. Their realm was failing. They needed ours. 10 seconds. Kirilla's form blazed beside me, recording everything. "They're desperate," she whispered. "That's why they've come now." The entity's luminous appendages were inches from my face when inspiration struck, that uniquely human trait they so coveted. "You made a fundamental mistake," I told it, feeling a surge of defiance. "When you designed humans for adaptability, you gave us something you never intended." 5 seconds. The beam paused, its light dimming slightly in what might have been confusion. "You gave us choice," I said, as the countdown reached 0. A blinding flash, a deafening roar. Then, silence. I opened my eyes, surprised to find myself still existing. The implosion had happened. I felt it tear through reality like a cosmic shockwave, but something had protected us. Beside me, Kurilla's crystalline form glowed with soft blue light, equally bewildered by our survival. We stood in a bubble of calm space. Around us, the horizon had collapsed into a singularity no larger than my fist, suspended in the void. The portal was gone, its connection severed, and the luminous beings had vanished with it, all except one. The ancient entity remained before us, diminished but present. "You chose destruction," it said, its voice fainter in my mind. "Even knowing your origins." "Especially knowing our origins," I corrected. "If you truly made us, then you gave us the ability to reject our creators, to forge our own path." The being's light pulsed weakly. "The covenant cannot be fulfilled. Our realm will perish." For the first time, I felt something like pity for these ancient creatures. There could have been cooperation, not subjugation. You could have asked for our help, not demanded our submission. Perhaps, it conceded, a miscalculation. We did not anticipate how the seed of choice would grow within your kind. The bubble around us began to flicker. The entity's form grew more transparent. This junction between realities cannot be maintained, it said. Your ship approaches. One question remains, human. If not vessels, what purpose do you serve in this universe? I thought of all the captains who'd specifically requested human crew members, not for our strength or special abilities, but for that spark of unpredictability, the capacity to see beyond established patterns. We don't need a purpose assigned to us, I answered. We create our own. The entity seemed to consider this. And, interesting evolution. We will watch your kind from across the divide. Perhaps, there is still much to learn from you. With those words, it faded entirely. The protective bubble burst, and we found ourselves floating in open space, the compressed remains of the horizon drifting away into the void. In the distance, the Nebula Seeker approached cautiously, its rescue shuttles already deploying. 3 days later, I stood in the Nebula Seeker's medical bay beside Drax's recovery pod. The security chief had survived his encounter with the possessed captain, though barely. The captain himself and navigator Vel had perished in the implosion. You should have left when I told you to, Drax rumbled, his 4 eyes blinking at different rates, a sign of his lingering concussion. Then who would have dragged your heavy hide onto the shuttle? I replied with a grin. The Malosian twins had indeed returned for us, braving the implosion's aftermath to retrieve both Kurla and me, along with the unconscious Drax. They'd found us drifting where the horizon had once been, surrounded by a strange, shimmering residue that the ship's sensors couldn't identify. The Alliance Council is requesting your presence at Central Command, Kurla said, entering the medical bay. Her crystalline form now contained swirling patterns of light, the recorded memories of everything we'd witnessed. They've classified the void as a restricted zone pending further investigation. And Dr. Cathari? I asked. Any sign of her or the other crew members? Kurla's surface dimmed slightly. None. But the council found something interesting in the archives after reading my preliminary report. Ancient human cave paintings, dating back 30,000 years. They depict beings of light, and humans driving them away. I nodded slowly. So we did encounter them before. And we rejected them then too. It appears to be a pattern, she agreed. Perhaps that's why humans are in such high demand among galactic captains, not just for your adaptability or problem-solving, but for your species' fundamental drive for self-determination. The unwillingness to accept any predestined path. As I prepared to leave, Drax caught my arm with his massive hand. The Ulgorian fleet was right to fear the void, he said gravely, but they were wrong about humans. My people have a saying. The strongest chains are the ones we forge ourselves. Your kind refuses to be chained, even by your own makers. I smiled at the unexpected compliment. We're stubborn that way. 1 month later, I received new assignment orders, a special task force investigating the boundaries between dimensions. The ship was the newest in the fleet, with a diverse crew selected from across the Alliance. And for the first time in galactic history, it would have a human captain. Me. Turns out, in a universe full of ancient mysteries and cosmic dangers, the most valuable crew member isn't the strongest, the smartest, or the most technologically advanced. It's the one who looks at the impossible and asks, what if? The one who stares into the abyss and thinks, I wonder what's down there. The one who, when told this is how it's always been done, replies, let's try something new. That's why humans are in such high demand among galactic captains. We choose our own destiny, and sometimes we help others choose theirs too.